And we're back. That catchphrase again. Not long for me this time, thank goodness. I think you've all had enough of me after that. So this, I've been really looking forward to this session as a recent adopter of Camtasia, and I got very excited about it and then realized I had no idea what I was doing with it. So this will be really helpful. Jayne's joining us for some productivity tips in Camtasia. I shan't waste any more time and I shall get off your screen.
Brilliant. Thank you, Tom. And hello, everyone. I'm so delighted to join you today. So yeah, as Tom says, I'm going to be sharing some productivity tips for Camtasia. I've been using Camtasia for about 9 years, started on version 8. I'm a Windows user, and I thought it would be great to be able to share with you some of those things that I wish I'd known when I was starting out, but also when I was starting out, there's a lot of things that you can do now to make the editing process a lot easier. And so I thought, I love these editing features, so I wanted to share that with you. I would love to learn from you as well. So as most software, there's more than one way to do the same thing. So please do let me know how you use Camtasia too. If you're not familiar with Camtasia, it's made by TechSmith. They're in Michigan in the States, and they also make Snagit as well. As Camtasia is not just a screen recorder, but it's also a video editor as well. Now, I mainly use it for screencast tutorials. So my history for learning and development is about 20 years as a systems trainer, so face-to-face, and then I moved into e-learning and creating video tutorials, hence my adoption of Camtasia back in the day. So let's have a look. I'm going to go and share Camtasia with you. If you bear with me just 1 second. Okay, so I'm sure you'll let me know if you can't see, but you should be able to see my Camtasia screen. So what I thought I would do first of all is show you some of the settings that I changed. Now, these are my personal preferences because it's just the way that I like to work. So, and you don't have to adopt these, try them out. You might like them, you might prefer not to have them. So first of all, what I tend to do, what you can see on my Camtasia screen, I've got a couple of little tracks here. So let me just give you a very quick tour of Camtasia for those that are not familiar. It's made up of 4 main areas. On our left-hand side here, this is what we call our tools panel. And as you go through some of the tools, it'll open up its panel. Double-clicking on those will close it. In the center here, you can see this is our, what we call a canvas. It's sort of like the stage of what the viewer will see once you've built your video. And at the moment, I've just done a very quick screen record of some of the Camtasia shortcuts, keyboard shortcuts, which I'm going to be addressing in this session, just so I had something there. Now, down in here, you're probably familiar with a variety of different timelines. So Camtasia may not be that dissimilar, but we have a number of tracks. I'm just going to use my control key just to show you where my cursor is. So down in the tracks, you can have unlimited tracks. My recommendation is always to have the few as many as possible just to help with your productivity, but they're there if you need them. So this is our timeline, and as we move the playhead through the system, the screen will change depending on which frame you've got. And then on the right-hand side, you're not able to see them at the moment, but if I open up properties, and if I highlighted one of the pieces of media on the timeline, this will give you your unique properties for that piece of media, which you can then customize as you see fit. And we'll go through this a little bit later. So I'm just going to turn those off just at the minute to give me a little bit more real estate on the canvas. Now, talking about the canvas, sometimes I might want to see more space on the canvas, or maybe a smaller timeline. And this little arrow here where there's a line just under the canvas, and if I drag either way, it will shrink the canvas and make the tracks larger, or smaller, depending on where I'm working. I find that really useful for when I'm editing. Now, if you're Mac users, it will be slightly different, that it's this line here under your play controls. So I use that one quite a lot. Now you'll notice, let me just increase that. I'm just going to increase the height of this track too, just by clicking on the header of the track. This is an audio file. For those that have worked with audio, you'll recognize the waveform there. Now, if you're using Camtasia, you probably don't have the mirrored waveform like this. I personally, I do a lot of audio editing. I do voiceovers, and I'm quite particular in taking out all my little mouth noises that happen when I'm talking. So depending on the video and my editing time, I might take them out. So I tend to find this mirrored waveform quite useful. So I just noted a question there, great question there. It's like iMovie, absolutely, and most video editors a tool. The key differences, really, it's just the capabilities. iMovie, if you're making pretty basic videos, you can cut, you can do some minor edits, you can add title slides and things like that. Camtasia, I think it's really the features that it has. You can do a lot more editing, and it's the screen recorder as well. So that's so you can record your screen. That's probably one of the main differences. You can create SCORM packages with Camtasia as well. So just a very quick high-level comparison between those two, but great question, thank you. So back to the audio, something that I tend to do, as I say, is to have that mirrored waveform. And to do this, I go into Edit, and down at the bottom, I have Preferences. So let's take a look. So hopefully you can all see that on that black background. Does anyone else, do you go into Preferences? It would be really interesting to see what you change here. Personally, on the Program tab, you can see you've got mirror waveforms. So this would give you the top and the bottom, so that I can see the peaks and troughs a lot easier. There's a few other things in there that you can do. The other thing that I changed for in my settings, my defaults, when you're adding any effect, for example, a transition, so you can have a bit like PowerPoint transitions, sliding between one image to another image, you might just do a gentle fade or something really whizzy. The default is 1 second. Now, if you move along the preferences to timing, these are all the standard default timings that you can have. So every time you import an image into your project, remember it's more than just a screen recorder. You can actually build your video by adding images, audio, music, title slides and things like that. So if you found that you were constantly changing and updating your effects, the duration on your timeline, then I would suggest perhaps come in here and change. I prefer a slightly shorter transition, but it depends on the video I'm making and the client's preferences that they have. But I tend to change it to 0.7 seconds, which is about 10 frames in Camtasia. The other thing that I'd like to address is the shortcuts. I would encourage those that are keyboard users, and I'm not an expert at using my keyboard shortcuts, but when I find one, I find that it saves me so much time. So I would really encourage you to be familiar with the shortcuts that are available. Now, in preferences, you can actually change your shortcut keys. So I'm just going to click on shortcuts. And down the left here, you've got all the different types of shortcuts that Camtasia offers. And yeah, so I've had I was using, to start recording your screen, it's function key F9. But it clashed with one of my other software applications. So I needed to change that, and this is where you can change it. Likewise, if you're using one of Premiere Pro or something like that, and you're familiar with particular keyboard shortcuts and you want the same, you can change them in here if you needed to. Okay, so as I say, you can find out all these shortcut keys here. The other thing, and so once you've saved those, that will just be, those defaults will always be there. The other way to find your keyboard shortcuts is in the help menu at the top of Camtasia, and then you've got keyboard shortcuts. This opens up techsmith.com, which is the web page where you can find all the video tutorials, where you can also download a free 30-day trial. So if you've not got Camtasia, I definitely recommend that you download, have a play. As the other speakers have said earlier on today, some of these tools, it's just a matter of getting in there and having a play and seeing what it can do. But I'd certainly have a look at the keyboard shortcuts, not only for saving time, but I find that it also gives you the opportunity to learn some of the terminology. Because I don't know if you've ever searched for, you know what you want to do. Say, for example, you want to duplicate a frame because you want that frame to stay on your screen a bit longer, for example. And if you search for something like that, it's really difficult because you're not finding the right keyword. I found personally that if I'm familiarizing myself with these keyboard shortcuts, it actually highlights the possibilities. So that's where they are. Another setting that I tend to use, again, this is a personal preference and probably from where I started in Camtasia 8, because the default in Camtasia 8 was to have what we call playhead snapping, which means that when this is my playhead, so as I move through the timeline, as soon as it hits another frame, I don't know if you can see it, but you can see a little faint yellow line. So this means that I'm sort of really, it sort of stops, it snaps to those pieces of media. Now the default is just to have it running across. If you prefer, like me, to see it, go into your view menu, which is on the top, and then the default is to have this not selected. So you can enable playhead snapping. And that's just my personal preference, but I think it's probably because I started with it. So you know when something then disappears and it's like, oh, well, that's different. So it's just my preference. I liked it to snap on that one. Okay, so a couple of other things that I change in Camtasia is when I'm recording my screen, I'm going to open up the Camtasia recorder for you to see. Hopefully you will see this. This is just our big red record button. So this is where we go when we want to record our screen, but we also have some other options as well. I'm not sure you still see that, do you? Tom, can you confirm whether you can see the Camtasia recorder? I'm not sure you can see it.
Yep. Yeah, we could see it.
Oh, you could?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. That came. No. Sorry,
it occurs to me you can't see the emojis people are sending up. It was just a flood of thumbs up.
Oh, really? Oh, that's fabulous. Yes. Thank you.
No, you're good.
It's good to know I'm not talking to myself. And it's good to know that it's useful. So that's great. Okay, so you can see the Camtasia recorder. Brilliant. Thank you, Tom. This is the very latest version. So I appreciate if you're not on 2021, and I think it's 2021.05 is the very latest version. It might look slightly different to you. Now, when I'm recording my screen, if you keep the default has an automatic file name. So I don't know if you've recorded anything and then at the end of the day, you've looked at your file explorer and you've got all these files that says REC with a date, which for me don't really mean anything. So for me personally, I prefer to give my recording file a name, and then I choose the location. To do that, once you've opened up your Camtasia recorder, I'm just going to go into the Tools panel, Tools menu, sorry, and we've got options. And there are a couple of tabs. The one that I'm just mentioning, which is the file location, I'm just going to click on the Files tab. And if you haven't changed anything here, you'll see automatic file name. So this is one that you just get the REC. If your preference is to give the recording file a name, you choose the folder location, you want to have this one selected, prompt for file name. Again, I think it was one because that was the default when I first started. But even so, I think I would struggle with all the recording files having a very similar name. You can then also say where you want it to save to. So thank you, Helen, for saying that you could see my screen. Thanks for letting me know. So that's file location. Would that be useful to you? Do you think you most? Let me know in the chat. I can't see your emojis, but it could be that your workflow, you don't need to see the file name. But I certainly do. So the other thing I change here is, thank you, Tom, is under the General tab. Now, when I'm screen recording, I have a storyboard, I have a plan, I have taken images, I know the process, the steps that I'm going to be taking. And what I might do is start recording. I always move my cursor very purposefully, so it's not all over the screen. I personally suffer from digital motion sickness, so any screen recordings where the cursor's going everywhere, I generally have to stop. I find it difficult to watch. So I would recommend, if you're screen recording, move your cursor with purpose. But if you need to pause the recording, you can press F9, which is the default function key. But this one here, it should be on by default. Restore cursor location after pause. So for example, if you paused your recording, but then maybe a pop-up came up, or you needed to just bring that pop-up onto view, or you need to adjust something, this would make sure that your cursor appeared in the right location. So that's another one that it's not, I haven't changed it, but one that I find really, really useful. Okay, so that's all I was going to share for my setup. The other things that I generally do, and I recommend for, thank you, I love that comment, thank you. When I do helping beginners get to grips with Camtasia, I encourage them to set up their themes. So a theme in Camtasia would save you lots of time if you're using your own branding colors, for example. So if you're using any text call out boxes, which I'll show you in a second, it will automatically have your colors set. It keeps consistency, it keeps your brand on brand, and you can change them as well. So let me give you an example. So if I go into annotations, you will find all these lovely shapes, call outs, text call outs. Have a play, you'll find them all in here. All these shapes can be customized, but can you see here I've got a theme? So I've got my own company theme in here. So I've got Ravion. So automatically they change to the default color, font and text color on here. So if I was to use one of these, it's just much quicker than having to change it each time. Also, let me just go back. So I'm just working on a little screen. I usually work on my big screen on Camtasia. If I just go back to the usual one, let's say I wanted to add a text box with some information, for example. Just going to scale. So Camtasia has a lot of menus on a right click. So context menu, if you're not sure how to do something or you're looking for something, have a right click, you'll probably find it. So scale to fit, I'm just going to make that a bit bigger so you can see. Now it's added it to my timeline. If I open up the properties here, you'll see now all the colors, the default, but these can all be customized. And if I had a theme, I could then just add my theme and it automatically changes. So there's a couple of different ways of doing that. Now, very quickly, how to show you to create your theme. Go into File, Manage Themes, which is about 2/3 of the way down. Sorry, it is black on black, so it might be a bit difficult for you to see. But again, you can go in here, add a plus, create your colors, your backgrounds. You can say what you want as your main background and your main font. Add your logo if you like. That's my company Ravion logo. But you get the idea. So I'm all about sort of time saving, speeding up the process. So this takes a little bit of programming initially, but once it's in there, it's in there. And you can save all of these. You can share them with your colleagues. So super helpful if you've got corporate branding colors or your own colors. Now, the other thing that I sometimes do, just close this so I can see. So at the moment, if I'm just going to make this a bit smaller, you just grab the corners and change it. So it's a bit big, but I'm just doing it for the purpose of this so you can see. So it could be, I don't know, it could even be a title slide coming on. But at the moment, what happens with TechSmith and Camtasia is as soon as this comes, the Playhead comes along, hits that, it appears. So it can be quite abrupt. It's more like a bit of like a cut. It just appears on the screen. Now, I like the animations, a little bit of movement. It can be quite subtle. And within Camtasia, you've got transitions, but you've also got behaviors. Now, transitions we mentioned earlier, where I changed the default. So you've got on your tools panel, you have transitions. And there are 75 additional new transitions. So fill your boots, choose which transition you prefer. I think for me personally, if it's adding to your video and it's not distracting, then go for it. You know, you can use them. For me personally, I generally stick with my fade through black because of the types of videos that I'm doing. But I have made some more marketing videos and some of these can be really quite effective as you go through. But let's say for this example, I want to say I want this to move in from the side, for example, or drop down from the top. So in Camtasia, there's pre-programmed animations, which are brilliant. They're time savers. And if you're not that confident doing your animations, these are great to do it for you. So under behaviors, this one here, you've got all these different movements. So you can scale, etc., reveal, change opacity. One that I particularly like, and the reason that I'm showing you this is because these are all customizable as well. So for this, I'm going to use sliding. I'm going to drag it to the item that I want to have a behavior. And once you've added a behavior, you'll see there's just a little triangle at the bottom. If I click on that, remember your properties are on the right-hand side, and it's saying that the movement coming as it comes onto the screen, it's moving in from the left. Now, these might absolutely be fine for you. And then what happens whilst it's on the screen? It's fading. So again, I might struggle with that. If it's fading in and out, that motion sickness, I might struggle with that. So a lot of the time I change this to none. And then how do you want it to leave? So I'm going to say that I want this to come in just so that I change it from the top and then leave at the bottom. So I'm going to say the direction is going to go out. My direction coming in is going to be from the top. So I'm just going to play that just so, let me just turn, you don't want to hear me. So nothing happens whilst it's on the screen, gives so you get the idea. Now, again, this is all about productivity tips and saving time. So what if we could save that so that I don't have to change that each time? You can. So in my properties, this little plus, which isn't really obvious, wherever you see a plus, you can add this as a preset. So it's your personal behavior. So I'm going to click on plus. I'm going to say that it's sliding, but to differentiate it from the other one, I'm going to do maybe sliding top and then leaving at the bottom. I could add fade, for example. And now what it does, it adds it into your behaviors, but I've got this little person icon, just indicating that it's my own made behavior. Now, what if I use this one a lot? So if I came into behaviors, I've sort of got to scroll down here, find the one. If you take your cursor over, you've got the little star. I'm sure most of you are aware, the little star will put it in my favorites. So I've just added that. And now if I look in my favorites, you'll see this sliding top to bottom is just easy access. So you can see here, I've got my one that pops up with non-during. So I've taken out the fading or the movement. You can see also in my favorites, I've got my fade, my trusty fade transition, and also my fade through black. Again, it saves me time by going into transitions and searching for the fade. You'll also notice that I've got a couple in here that are my favorites. So I've actually got text on here. So these are all customized, preset, and favorited. So on this one, I've particularly added a gradient. Any questions coming in? I can see some of you enjoying the tips, so I'm really glad that these are going to be useful for you. I like that, Helen. Rewatching it, just having a play, picking up different things. And please do share your tips as well with everyone so we can all learn together. Okay, so that's sort of presets, showing you your favorites. The other thing that you might want to do is use the library. So the library is somewhere that Camtasia shares lots of intros, music, icons, lots of different assets that are all royalty-free for you to see, for you to use. So let me just have a look in the library, just to give you an idea what's in here. I'll just change it to the standard Camtasia one. So I've used there's people in here. They do okay for diversity. There's some different shape sizes, colors and things, lots of different music themes. If you wanted a music track, maybe to grab someone's attention when you're making your video, you can. They're all in here, free for you to use. You could also download more assets, as you can see here. So if you can't quite find what you're looking for, it takes you to techsmith.com and you'll be able to find more things in there. Now, if you've got something that you want to share, or let's say, for example, I'd created something like a title slide and I wanted to always use that. You'll notice when I first came in here, I had a Ravion, which is my company name. So for example, I make, where's it gone? Okay, so I make Camtasia tips. So if you are using Camtasia, or maybe not yet, but you might do, look out for my hashtag Camtasia tips. I create little GIFs, which you can do with Camtasia. I know we can, that GIFs came up earlier in Emily's session. So if I'm really frequently using these, I might add the media to my library, and all you would do is right click on the piece of media and add to the library, and then it's always there and you can share. Very quickly, I'll just show you. I've got so much to show you, but I'm aware time is running out. Under File, if you've gone to the effort of creating your themes, any library assets, you can share all of these by going into File and Export. And what I would recommend you do is export as a package, and then you can choose exactly what you want to share. So I'll let you have a play with that, and then email it, put it on your share drive, whatever, Dropbox, and then others can have easy access for that. Okay, so what I wanted to share with you are a couple of editing tips, because I see a lot, I sort of follow forums, I'm quite active on the forums, and I look to see possibly those frequently asked questions, and so then I'll make a little helpful GIF and often reply. So some of the ones that I see are, how do I move things? How do I stitch things together? So can I move that? Oh, I can. Let's move that out of the way. One of the ones that I want to share with you first is, if you've got something on your timeline and you don't need it, you want to cut it out. You've maybe done a cough in the audio, or dog barked or something like that. What you can do are three sort of different types of delete, and I want to share with you those three differences. Because if you just delete using delete on your keyboard, or the right click and delete, it's going to leave a space. I'm going to show you. So I'm going to use my Playhead to make a selection. So let's say this little bit here on my timeline, I'm going to delete that. Now I'll right click, as I mentioned before, the right click's really useful. I've got some different options here. Now I've got a delete and I've got a ripple delete. What's the difference, I wonder? If we just do delete, it leaves everything in the same place and it leaves the gap. Now you might want that gap because you might want to maybe, you've said the wrong thing. I often have voiceovers that I've recorded and then they'll say, actually, that wasn't pronounced quite right, or, oh, I've changed my mind. Can you actually say this? So I might remove that section and then import the new section. So it might be that you need that. So I've just done Control Z, standard undo. Now this time, if we do ripple delete, or you can do Control and your delete, I'm not sure you're going to see that, but it has stitched it and it's closed that gap. So ripple delete will remove that section, but it will also close that gap. So a really, really useful one. So those two, the other one, which is the other delete I mentioned, it's not really, well, it's sort of a delete. You can use your scissors, which is your cut. So you can cut, copy and paste. So the difference would be, if I cut this section, it does a ripple delete, but it adds it to your clipboard. So that if you wanted to, you can paste it. Tom, how are we doing for time? I'm just aware that I'm going over, I think. Or is it timed my session?
Yeah, we are
right.
going to have to sort of stop, otherwise you're going to run into Joe Suarez's session.
Yeah, I definitely don't want to do that.
But yeah, I think there's so much here. There's loads of people saying they're going to have to rewatch this as well. I know I'm going to have to. Yeah. Because this is so useful. I think especially for me, getting used to a new tool after years of video editing in DaVinci Resolve and Premiere Pro, which 9 times out of 10 are horrific overkill for ID work. discovering Camtasia was fantastic, and seeing how much more I can actually do with it than what I am is really interesting. So yeah, I think everyone seems to agree that there is a lot here to unpack, and hopefully we hear more from you on this topic as well in the future, because I think we could do a whole day of this.
I feel we could, but yes, maybe let's go for a cup of tea first. You've got some great sessions coming up. Hi, Cara, and I'm looking forward to Joe's session as well. So thank you everyone for your time. Fire any questions to me. I might be in the chat, and I might even sit at a table if you have any questions later on. But thank you so much, Tom.
It's been a pleasure. Thanks, everyone. We'll see you very soon.
Okay, bye.